the privates first.
All right.
Let's have some questions. Representative Carter for some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for appearing before us this morning. You said something that caught my attention. You said that we have the highest incarceration rate in the nation.
That's correct.
In the world.
In the world. Yeah, because the United States is the highest in the world. Prison capital of the world.
And what's the number that are considered nonviolent offenders?
That's a good question. I've
got that right here. When you look at the makeup of our system, basically 44% are violent, 22 are drug, 17 are property, and 15 are all other. So
I'm sorry, you gave me those numbers way too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
You said 22%
are drug crimes, 17 are property, and
17% of property crimes?
Yes, and 15 are other crimes.
But the one thing, Representative, and I mean, I understand why you're asking that. When you look at that on the surface, you really got to dig down a little further than that. In a lot of cases, priors could be violent, sex offenses, even in the arrest arena, and I know that the sheriffs and the DAs will tell you that, they have some priors. So usually, when you start looking at, risk assessments and those, all that needs to be brought into the scope.
And certainly. But one of the things that we're doing as part of this process is we are digging down. And so if we were to dig down to these numbers, and we're talking the highest incarceration rate in the nation, if we can dig down into those numbers, I'm trying to figure out how many are incarcerated without that nonviolent component. Is that a significant number? That's a small number? I mean, what's the percentage of nonviolent offenders currently in our correctional state prison system?
Sure. There's, if you look on any given year when we're releasing people, and it's probably best to look at releases than it is to look at current population, because there's people that churn, that come in and out during a year and stuff. Roughly, we release 15,000 a year, and there are about 11,000 of them that are truly nonviolent, that are releasing, that don't have that previous violent or
11,
sex crime. Yes.
And so I saw in one of your handouts that the cost of housing a prisoner a day, I believe, is $36.72
Yes, sir.
a day. And so just some back of the envelope type math, that's $13,402.80 a year.
Yes, sir.
What's that times 11,000?
That's significant.
That's a lot of money, and
yeah.
as we're looking at shutting down facilities across the state, I got a calculator on my phone. Unfortunately, I don't have.
Let me just point one thing out. That when you look at that per diem, that's the system-wide per diem. Any sort of reduction that you would see in our state population, we calculate at the a local level per diem of $24.39 a day, and I can tell you that's going to be about $53 million a year.
$53 million per year?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure they just wouldn't be released. I'm sure there'll be some parole.
Well, that's where I was going. You can't just say.
Absolutely, and I'm not trying to brush that over.
Okay.
And so the next question I was going to ask was, what's the cost of that? So if I'm looking at.
It's $2.60 a day.
Okay, so I thought it was going to be higher than that. So,
No.
So it's a difference of if we look at the lower rate per day, you're looking at around $24 a day. And so if we consider the parole, let's just assume $20 a day in savings, right? Times 11,000.
Yes. You're going to be up around $47-48 million.
And that's annualized per year, or is that?
Yes, that's over a year, because you'd save about an average of about 180 days for each one of those guys.
And again, I'm not brushing anything over, so we also have to make certain that these individuals are prepared to reenter society. And I can tell you that during the course of my campaign, I had the pleasure of visiting Angola and going to the reentry program.
Yes.
And it was an outstanding program.
It is.
I was particularly taken aback by that AC repair shop.
Yep.
That's there, and I forget, Johnson Controls, whoever it is, have
that.
state-of-the-art facility.
Yes.
Yep, they donated
and it bothered me that, quite honestly, that I didn't have a state-of-the-art AC repair shop in my local high school, but there is one in the local, the state prison. You could get, with this reentry program, auto mechanic certification, a license to do AC repairs, but yet I can't have my students don't get that in their local high schools. But I guess that's a conversation for another day. So about these 11,000.
But that was donated now, remember that. That wasn't anything we had to buy.
I know, but still, someone needs to donate it to a high school too.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just-
agree, I agree. I'm
If
not
we're
going
going
to
to
argue
spend
with
that
you on
sort of
that.
money to house our prisoners, it'd be amazing if we would rehabilitate and give job opportunities on the front end to prevent them from going to jail in the first place, is my point.
Yes.
We agree.
Okay. But about this 11,000 figure, so we would have to train them, prepare them for reentry.
Correct.
As well. It wouldn't just be, 24,000 or $24 or $20 times to 11. It would be some reduced amount. But you're looking at savings of $46 million, $47 million per year.
I think, and we've looked at these kind of scenarios in the past. Whenever you did something like that, you would also have to find some way to relieve the back end, in other words, probation and parole, to where if there are people at the back end of their either probation supervision or parole supervision, you could offset those number of people coming to probation and parole to where they would be status quo. You wouldn't have to increase the funding or the resources over in probation and parole to be able to take them in.
So, yeah, two options, either hire additional our PMP caseload right now is
I
around.
don't know the acronyms. I'm sorry.
Probation and parole.
Okay.
PMC.
Probation and parole is roughly, I'm sorry, is roughly 140 per agent, which is cases per agent. I'm sorry. And that's about 50 above average. So we overworked in probation and parole. In order to parole those numbers of people, we'd have to address that issue.
And it'll be a significant effort.
It would.
But we're talking about tens of millions of dollars per year in cost savings.
That's
Also
your-
reducing our incarceration rate, where we're the highest in the world.
And the other thing you got to look at on those too, Representative, is the recidivism rate, because you got to apply that first year recidivism because they're going to be coming back. When you just have to understand that there's some.
But what's the recidivism rate for the reentry program? Isn't it the numbers?
Oh, if everybody goes through reentry, that number it certainly gets better. If we can get all those through a program, which that would be
I would
a
like
challenge.
to see a comprehensive program that talks about reducing the incarceration rate with a particular focus on releasing those nonviolent offenders, but making certain that they have the job training type program as exhibited with the reentry program, with not only a goal of reducing our incarceration rate, but also saving tens of millions of dollars annualized per year. Does that sort of plan already exist, or would that have to be generated somehow?
We obviously, funding has a lot to do with what you can provide, and and Speaker Pro Tem Leger passed House Concurrent Resolution 82, which actually this position is the chair of that. We are planning our first meeting in April, and we are planning on.
Invite me to that meeting.
Yes, I certainly will, and. Actually, maybe you can get somebody to put you on that committee, because there's a representative from the House, I believe, and Speaker has a delegate, the Speaker Pro Tem. So anyway, so you might want to see what you can do there. But the point is that for 17 is what we're looking at. And it's a 1 year. It's called a Criminal Justice Reinvestment Committee. It's a 1 year committee to be ready for 17 session. And those are the kind of things that we plan on talking about and how we can address those issues.
I'm all for talk.
No, I
It's
mean, I'm
time to
talking
move
about
beyond
plan.
talk and actually start. Given the budget circumstance, we have to make some difficult decisions and try to save funds in order to fund other things that matter, such as higher education, such as health care in the state of Louisiana. And you're talking about we could save $47 million with nonviolent offenders in the state of Louisiana and lower our incarceration rate. I'm all for talk. It's time to do something about it, given the current crisis that we have.
Well, our numbers,
And just allow me to say this, that
Okay.
one of the things I keep hearing is that the current budget crisis gives us an opportunity. This is one of those opportunities that not only can we save funds, we can reduce our incarceration rate. So let's see if we can try to get it done and not just talk about getting it done.
Well, as we get into conversation in 17, Representative, you're going to see a little bit of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And, just the talk versus the walk, I think you'll see that the population has decreased based upon the efforts of the legislature and of this department, over 4,200 over the last 3 calendar years. So, we have seen a significant decrease, as the Secretary alluded to, 3 years in a row. We have seen decreases in the population.
Yeah, and I saw the numbers.
So, but
And I
as
see
you,
it, yeah.
there's still work to do.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McFarland for a question.